Maria had always wanted to speak English fluently. She practiced reading and writing, but found speaking to be the hardest part. One day, her English teacher introduced her to a new method called shadowing. Maria had never heard of this technique before, so she asked, "What is shadowing?" Her teacher smiled and explained, "Shadowing is a speaking practice where you listen to someone speaking in English and repeat what they say, almost at the same time. It's like you are following or shadowing the speaker." Maria thought this sounded interesting. "But how can it help me improve my speaking?" she asked. "It helps you get used to the rhythm and pronunciation of English," her teacher said. "By repeating what you hear, you can train your brain to think in English. You'll also improve your listening skills because you need to understand what the speaker is saying quickly." Maria was excited to try this new method. She decided that every day she would practice shadowing for 30 minutes. Chapter 2. Starting the shadowing practice. The next morning, Maria sat in front of her computer. She found a video online called Daily English Conversations for Beginners. The speaker in the video talked slowly and clearly, which was perfect for Maria's first shadowing practice. She put on her headphones, took a deep breath, and pressed play. "Good morning. How are you today?" the speaker asked. Maria immediately repeated, "Good morning. How are you today?" At first, it was a little difficult to keep up. Maria felt like the words were coming too fast. But she didn't give up. She kept listening and repeating. The speaker continued, "I'm doing great. Thank you. What about you?" Maria repeated, "I'm doing great. Thank you. What about you?" After a few minutes of shadowing, Maria noticed something. Her pronunciation was getting better, and she felt more confident. It was like she was having a real conversation with the speaker, even though she was just repeating what she heard. Chapter 3. Improving with consistency. Every day, Maria practiced shadowing for 30 minutes. At first, she chose simple conversations, like greetings, ordering food, or asking for directions. The more she practiced, the more comfortable she felt. She was not only improving her speaking, but also learning new words and phrases. After a week of shadowing, Maria felt a big difference. She noticed that her English was becoming more natural. She didn't need to think so much before speaking. Instead, the words came to her quickly, almost automatically. One evening, Maria decided to challenge herself. She chose a video with a faster conversation. The speakers talked about their weekend plans, and the conversation moved quickly. At first, Maria struggled to keep up. The words were faster than what she was used to. But she remembered her teacher's advice. It's okay if you can't follow everything at first. The important thing is to keep trying. Maria listened closely and repeated what she could. After a few minutes, she started to catch the rhythm. She wasn't perfect, but she could follow most of the conversation. It was a big step forward. Chapter 4. Shadowing with real conversations. One day, Maria decided to shadow real-life conversations. She joined an online language exchange where people from different countries practiced English together. She found a conversation between two people who were talking about their hobbies. Maria watched and listened carefully. As soon as one person spoke, she repeated their words. It felt different from shadowing a video because these were real people having a natural conversation. The speakers used slang, made jokes, and even paused while thinking. "I like painting," said one person. Maria quickly repeated, "I like painting." "Really? That's interesting." "I prefer playing guitar," said the other person. Maria followed, "Really? That's interesting." "I prefer playing guitar." By shadowing real conversations, Maria learned how people naturally spoke in English. It wasn't just about grammar or vocabulary, it was about how people interacted. She noticed how they used expressions like, and during their conversations. Chapter 5. Adding emotion and tone. As Maria continued her shadowing practice, she started paying attention to more than just the words. She noticed the tone of the speakers' voices. When someone was happy, their voice sounded lighter. When they were serious, their voice became deeper. One day, while shadowing a conversation, Maria thought to herself, "I need to match their tone and emotions too." So she tried it. When the speaker laughed, Maria laughed too. When the speaker sounded excited, Maria made her voice sound excited. This made the shadowing practice more fun and engaging. One conversation Maria practiced was about a fun weekend at the beach. The speakers sounded happy and full of energy. "We had so much fun at the beach," the speaker said with excitement. Maria repeated, adding the same excitement to her voice. "We had so much fun at the beach." This helped Maria improve not just her pronunciation, but also her ability to express emotions in English. She realized that speaking was more than just saying words. It was about connecting with the listener. Chapter 6. Facing Challenges. There were days when shadowing felt hard. Sometimes the speakers spoke too quickly, or they used words Maria didn't know. She felt frustrated when she couldn't keep up. On one of those tough days, Maria almost gave up. "I can't do this," she thought. "It's too hard to follow." But then she remembered how much she had improved since she started. She thought about her first shadowing practice, where she could barely keep up with simple conversations. Now, she could follow faster conversations and even add emotions to her voice. Maria decided not to give up. Instead, she found a slower video to practice with. She listened carefully, repeated the words, and focused on improving little by little. Every day is a step forward, Maria reminded herself. Chapter 7. Practicing with Podcasts. After several weeks of shadowing videos, Maria wanted to try something different. She heard that podcasts were a great way to improve listening and speaking skills, so she decided to give it a try. She found a podcast called Everyday English Conversations. The podcast featured two people talking about daily topics, like going to the grocery store, planning a vacation, or cooking dinner. Maria listened to the first episode, which was about grocery shopping. The conversation was natural, and the speakers used a lot of common phrases. "I need to buy some eggs, bread, and milk," one speaker said. Maria quickly repeated, "I need to buy some eggs, bread, and milk." The speakers in the podcast also used questions, which gave Maria a chance to practice asking and answering questions in English. "Do you need anything else?" one speaker asked. Maria repeated the question, "Do you need anything else?" She found podcasts to be a great way to practice shadowing because the conversations were natural and she could learn useful phrases for daily life. Chapter 8. Shadowing and Speaking with Confidence. As Maria continued her shadowing practice, she noticed that her speaking skills had improved a lot. She could speak more fluently and confidently. She no longer felt nervous when speaking in English, even with native speakers. One day, Maria was at a cafe when a tourist came up to her and asked, "Excuse me, do you know where the nearest bus stop is?" Without thinking, Maria replied, "Yes, it's just down the street. Turn left at the corner and you'll see it." The conversation was short, but it made Maria realize how far she had come. A few months ago, she would have been too nervous to answer. Now, speaking English felt natural. The shadowing practice had helped her think quickly in English and respond without hesitation. It had also improved her pronunciation and made her feel more comfortable using English in everyday situations. Chapter 9. Setting New Goals. Maria was proud of her progress, but she knew there was still more to learn. She decided to set new goals for herself. "My goal is to shadow more advanced conversations," Maria thought. "I want to practice with faster speakers and more complex topics." She found new videos and podcasts that featured discussions on topics like travel, culture, and current events. The conversations were faster, and the vocabulary was more difficult, but Maria was ready for the challenge. She also set a goal to practice shadowing for 45 minutes every day instead of 30 minutes. She believed that the more she practiced, the more fluent she would become. Chapter 10. Celebrating Progress. After months of practicing shadowing, Maria could feel the difference in her English speaking skills. She was able to have longer conversations, use more advanced vocabulary, and speak with better pronunciation. One evening, Maria reflected on her journey. She remembered how nervous she used to feel when speaking English. Now, she could confidently speak to anyone in English without fear. She realized that shadowing had been one of the best methods for improving her speaking skills. By listening and repeating, she had trained her brain to think in English and respond quickly. Maria smiled to herself and said, "I've come so far, and I'm excited to keep improving. Chapter 11. Continuing the Journey. Maria's journey of learning English was far from over. She continued to practice shadowing every day, setting new challenges and goals for herself. Shadowing had become a regular part of her daily routine. It wasn't just a practice method anymore. It was something she enjoyed. She loved listening to conversations, learning new expressions, and improving her speaking skills. Maria knew that with each day of shadowing, she was getting closer to becoming the fluent English speaker she had always wanted to be. She was proud of her progress and excited for the future.